Joe, this is Joe Distelberger. Joe and I spoke last week about a concept that he has, and I thought it would be appropriate to bring it to the board. So, Joe, instead of me trying to explain everything, I'm just going to let you take it away.
Just go ahead and handle it, that's all.
Okay, well, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I'm going to pass out. I don't know if it's enough. But basically, let me back up. I am a land use consultant, manager, broker. This is a property that actually this is a property that I sold years ago to a gentleman who's an entrepreneur. It's behind the paddock. It's in the town of Goshen. It's owned by a gentleman named Howard Shapiro. It's under Javelin Realty. Bottom line is, from day one, I talked about the Bishop continuation of the paddock, and this is way before anybody talked about how the need for high-density housing, the need for affordable housing, the need to have kids be able to afford to come back here, and couldn't get to this place with anybody. I have a resource of resistance. Nobody wants it. I'm not going to fight the battle. We have a 9-lot subdivision that is conditional final or ready for conditional final. I don't know which, because we stopped. When I got a hold of the mayor, we stopped. We're ready with the 9 lots. 9 lots are presently worth approximately $1 million in this crappy market. The makeup of this is 42 acres, comprised of 2 pieces in the town, and then there's a small piece at the end of the Edgewood Drive in the village, and there's another small piece that you'll see right here. There's a little triangle. There's a piece here and a piece here in the village.
All right, right here and here.
Right. I said,
which is Edgewood, Joe?
Edgewood is right here.
Okay.
I said to the mayor that I really felt I wanted to stop and see if there's any interest when I got over your woes with sewer. This could be potential for users. I can see this as a continuation of the paddock, where you have approximately 6 units to the acre. We have approximately 25 to 30 good usable acres. Right now, we have a proposed road coming in from the end of the paddock all the way in, with lots on both sides. And if there was interest, and it was feasible for the owner to make this happen, I now understand there's going to be some type of time frame, lengthy. There's going to be some issues between the town and the village. But I think that the owner certainly understands all those and will be able to contribute back to make this happen if it made economic sense, if it made sense to all of you. That's what I'm here for.
So essentially, there's this property, and Joe wants to find out if we would be interested in annexing this property.
Annexing it into the building as opposed to just
contracting. Yes, annexing. And I think it would actually, just speaking only for myself, it would make sense for us, and actually I think the town as well, because if there was going to be a new subdivision here, it would be kind of just in the middle of nowhere. The town would have to go in and service and police and all that other stuff. Whereas if it's connected to the village already, why not bring it in officially, and then we would provide the services and more of an economies of scale. There would be more sewer users the village needs. So, that's, at least I'm firmly in favor of more sewer users. It'd be in the village, so it would be, expanding the village's tax base, which we desperately need to expand. We would provide sewer and water, and what I explained to Joe is that both of those things cost money, and water, we are, we're moving towards, the CRB well, but, if we were going to be having new users to service, that we would need to generate some revenue from that. And Joe, if you can maybe just speak to that briefly.
Yeah, I said that, obviously, let's use economics for a minute. If there's $1 million, let's say, roughly on the table today, and let's say this project turned into $2+ million. Other than the time factor, the owner of the property now could certainly contribute towards making it happen. And if that helped you out and helped him out, there's no harm in it.
Similar to now, we read about the town's getting funds from Heritage Estates to improve their infrastructure, the same concept.
Can I digress for 30 seconds?
What's that?
Can I digress for 30
Yeah.
seconds? Okay.
Digress away.
Okay. As a land use consultant, I get very frustrated. I said this to the mayor. I drive all over the country and I watch the way developments get done out in our area. And there's such a nice synergy between high-use development and the way it's done. And I look at what we're doing. It's no wonder we have problems. Our municipalities are all going to be in trouble. We're creating a product that is unsustainable. You're doing 9 lots on 40 acres when you're right next to a high-use, right next to the trail where people are going to want to live, where kids, younger generation, your age, are going to want to come in and start a family, or where somebody my age may want to come in and retire. We don't have that. So I thought this was a natural piece, and that's why I got all excited over it. But again, that was my vision 7 years ago, and here I am 7 years later bringing it back, because you have it seems to me that you have a much more aggressive, better board than you've ever had, or than you've had in years. It seems like you get more aggressive.
We also have the services.
Well, you have the services, and you also have the vision.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm here, so.
You ready for questions?
Yeah.
9-lot subdivision.
Yes.
However, you just focused on the fact that it is adjacent to a multiple dwelling.
Yes.
Therefore, what security do I have that you don't come from the 9-lot subdivision, get your approval, and then ask for 45 units?
No, we're going to be asking for a lot more units. 9 lots don't work.
I understand that. I'm trying to get you.
No, we're looking for the highest density we possibly can get. And we're going to
Which would be one. You know what I mean.
Just following the pattern, 6 units to the acre, if there's 25 to 30 usable acres, it would be 150 to 180. In other words, it's not going to be economically justifiable, because if you're looking at...
I understand.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so if that's this parcel, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And what's this parcel?
That just happened, it all came together as one parcel.
So this is part of yours?
This is all part, right, this is all owned by the same owner. There are 4 parcels, 2 in the town, 2 in the village.
And this one?
That's has nothing to do with these lines.
No, I know, but what is it? Who is?
Do not honestly know. I know this is owned by Jimmy Boylan. I don't know more. I did see my pictures.
Kyle, do we know who owns this?
I can do a search on that.
The big one.
That's adjacent to the land?
On the side.
That I'm not sure about.
Well, I only mention it because it's a lot of vacant land, and you're talking about, and I'm making no statement pro or con, I'm just talking the reality of the situation. If you're allowing that density here, it's going to be hard, you're going to be hard pressed not to permit the same thing here. So I'd like to know how many usable acres are here. So you're looking at a concept for the entire area rather than an
I
isolation.
will tell you this, from a point of view of actual soils, the best part of the property is going to be here, which is why this has all been maintained over the years.
So this is going to end up being
I
Barbie.
would imagine that this is going to be difficult to do anything with, to be honest with you.
This isn't Barbara. I always called her Barbie. Margot, George's daughter, and what's the name of it? You
I
know.
believe his name is Kemp or something.
No, I called him Kemp because it was Barbie and
No,
Kemp.
I think it's...
You know who I mean.
Yes.
It's this parcel.
It's a name like that. I forget.
Yeah, I don't remember either. But that would be information I would want to have.
How many units would we be talking about? You just said it.
Someplace between 150 and 200, let's say. 6
Something
Something
similar.
density to the paddock, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something, me personally, I think that somewhere in that big chunk of land, you got a great spot for a grocery store.
That's it.
True.
Throw that in there.
Well, I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said somewhere in there, I think somewhere out in the back 40 here would be a good spot for a stop and shop or something in there.
I gotta be honest with you, I desperately need one, and I'd love to have one, but I don't think there's better places to put it.
No, I understand.
Only because of access.
Yeah, they have to go across the trail.
Not only that, when you start doing that, that's how you kill your place.
What, stop and shop?
Oh, you mean a grocery store?
Yeah,
Well, they have it right here. No, they have it. When you put a strip mall in, it's a different deal. The strip mall is approvable right across the road.
Yeah.
Right across the road.
I think that, this is going to generate more questions than answers at the moment.
Sure.
But it's something that I'm very interested in. I was encouraged by my initial conversations with Joe, but I don't vote. So I wanted to bring it to the board, and if there's interest, and we can start to move forward towards greater discussions. Obviously, it's going to involve a conversation with the town. I think it might be something they'd be in favor of, but we'd have to have that conversation. There's a whole process for these things. But there's no point in us starting the process if this board isn't in favor in principle with moving forward. So I was looking for some direction tonight.
I would be in favor of something like this.
I'd be in favor of conversation, sure.
Okay.
I have lots of questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, not just blindsided in favor, but I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's something that warrants further investigation. We should look into it, and we should look into it fast and hard and furious.
I would say, though, that the density, if you're going off the density of the paddock was given increased density because it was originally built for senior housing. And once again, and this is not the first time it's happened in this municipality or various others, they went in, they got their increased density because they were servicing people who were older, and then would come back and say, well, we can't rent it for that, and then come back with their increased density and just rent them. I would want to be very cautious about that.
Can I give you an honest answer, because we actually had a discussion.
Sure.
Kyle asked the same question. He said, would you be willing to do this at 55 and over? And I said the same thing you just did. I said, I'd really be disingenuous if I represented this as 55 and over, because if you get approvals for it, and now you've got it, and you can't sell it, you're going to come back and say, well, we need market housing. Having said that, I would ask how many kids are in the paddock. The fairways, which I was involved in when I first got started, by the town of Walker, by the Orange County Golf Course in the town of Walker. The fairways is market housing. You get 2 families in the whole thing with kids.
I understand,
So-
and I appreciate your honesty. I do.
Well, that's how I run my life.
One of the questions I had asked Joe was the number of bedrooms they were anticipating the houses, and what was your response to that, Joe?
I said probably most of them would be 2. There could be a few that would be 3. Again, this is all work in progress.
Right, of course.
For me too to look into it.
I'm just raising issues as well. So if we're looking at the density that they were originally permitted at, what's the breakout point for you to make money? And for this to still happen is the question I'm raising for you to look into.
And understand, I also have to sell it to my owner, because you're looking at, and he's a wealthy guy, so he doesn't need the money today. We're looking at $1 million today, and we actually have a deal on the table versus, $2.5 million minus whatever it's going to take to get it done 3 years from now. Because I don't think this is going to happen.
I think we're all business people here and
Right,
understand the reality of that. And that's why I'm saying, what's the cutoff point where you can make money and we don't have to give an increased density that is disingenuous?
I would say in order, just using today's numbers, if you can sell a project like this, they're bringing about $15,000 a unit. So you can do the math as well as I can. If it's 150 units, it's 2.25 million.
That's the profit.
No, well,
No,
2.25 million
deal.
would be the gross deal.
Yeah.
Minus increased engineering, minus whatever it's going to take to get this done, minus the time and money, probably another $300,000 to $400,000 off. Probably would end up shy of doubling his money if he's willing to wait the time
I understand.
at 150 units.
So you're saying that the project itself will cost
No. You could sell it, if you had this approved today, 150 units, today's market, they would sell for $15,000 a unit.
Okay.
You could sell it to somebody who's going to build it out at $15,000 a unit. That's the going rate right now.
And the other question is, which I'll certainly ask Art to investigate, is what we're going to have to go through in order to get another 150 units approved in the village concerning the water source.
Sure, and I think it goes back to...
But I can work on that.
Sure.
Yeah, I can work on that.
Also, just so you know, Art, Lancatelli are the ones that have been involved in this project from the beginning. So Art is going to have to recuse himself because they do want to do the work.
Okay.
Dave Higgins has been representing, he represents me in all my projects.
Suggestion to me.
And I can say that in terms of sewer, for new sewer comes to these, he's probably going to be looking for a 3-to-1 ratio, where for every 1 gallon, the new sewer putting in, we have to remediate 3 gallons of infiltration.
They've been pretty clear on
Right,
that.
and that's something that I told Joe from the get-go, and he didn't hesitate on that. So if I'm getting the sense that the board is something we'd be interested in learning more about, moving forward with, to get answers to some questions.
Get answers to some questions and find out some good information.
And I would ask if somebody could put a list of questions together, you guys can discuss that, come up with whatever questions you want, and we'll go from there.
What I'll probably do is have the trustees take a few days to digest, email me, I'll get together, sit down with David, and we'll go from there.
Like everything, done out in the open, because it expedites everything.
Much
I
easier,
don't want
much
It's
easier.
incredible. I mean, the process is so perverted here. Not here, but in the town.
The whole purpose.
How long
I
would
just
it
closed.
take, how long would it take in normal circumstances to
well, this
go
is-
through the planning
This is
process?
the crazy thing. I had a closing today.
Nobody in Goshen.
I had a closing today at a property in Warwick that is started in 2000 on a 33-lot subdivision on 147 acres. If I did that in other municipalities, 12 to 18 months. It's crazy. And $600,000 in engineering. So why would anybody do anything? And that's why my owner I had a job to try to convince him, at least let me have the conversation with you. He says, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. I don't want to. I said, let me handle it.
Seems to be the norm rather than the exception.
It's
I
crazy.
think it is everywhere.
It's crazy.
I think it is everywhere around here.
Around here.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I did a subdivision in Virginia. It took me 2 years to do a 3,000 unit subdivision. 2 years, from start to finish.
Any for us to keep?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Okay?
So I'll be in touch with you.
I'm sorry they didn't come. I'm sorry they stuck together. You'll have to give Lord a hat. It's a shame. Thank you very much. Nice to see you. Nice to meet those of you who haven't met. And have a good night.
All right.
Thanks
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, so I guess whatever your thoughts are on that, in the next few days, send over to me. We can either do it via email, if you want to chat on the phone, I'm available to you guys. Next, we're going to talk about water meters. Before I turn over to Mike, Courtney in the office, she's collecting sewer and water bills, and she was going to come in tonight, but she had a previous engagement and couldn't make it, and I just wanted to commend her to you all for, people, for obvious reasons, frustrated with the new sewer bills that are coming out with the increased assessment. And Courtney and the entire staff has been doing a very nice job of handling that and treating everyone with good customer service. So I just want to commend her for that. One of the biggest things that Courtney deals with on a daily basis, and Mike's going to speak more to this, and I'm sure Marcia can add a lot as well, is broken meters. We have a lot of broken meters. Courtney says it could be up to 200, and again, Mike can fill whatever we're leaving out. But those that have broken meters, for the most part, pay the minimum because we just don't know how much is going in, so they're paying the minimum. So the village is losing a lot of revenue as a result of this, and it's for lack of a better phrase, it's not fair. There's someone that has a working meter and they're paying X amount, their neighbor that might use a similar amount of water with a broken meter, and they're not paying the right amount. It's just not fair for everyone. Right now, everyone's hurting and feeling the pain. You really need to have a new equitable way. In the budget this past year, in the water fund, we budgeted, I believe, $70,000. Is that correct, Marcia? For water meters. This is the first discussion we're having since that budget was adopted. But I think it's time that we really can't afford to wait any longer before we find some direction. So with that, Mike, I'll let you just kind of take that and run with it.
Okay, well, as we've discussed, broken meters are a problem. Places where we can't get in are a problem. A lot of places don't have our present remote reads, so they're getting minimum bills. Every year, Department of Health, when we do our annual inspection, it's called unaccounted for water. It's the amount of product we make, we only subtract how much we bill for it. We're losing most of our revenue, slow meters, old meters, broken meters. I've talked before, I think it's really now it's kind of a no-brainer. It's time to take some of this money and invest it to radio read meters. I had an updated quote done today, and I've done it. And
We're glad because we've done this in that sense.
Well, the crazy thing is whenever you're getting quotes that has to do with brass or copper, they'll only hold a quote 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's how fast things are going on. There's two brands that I like. One is Badger Meters and one is Census Technologies, Honeywell. They're both their quality product. I'm leaning towards the Badger because Schmidt's Wholesale at Monticello handles them, and they've been servicing us very well for a long time. let me hand this out. This is basically for a startup kit, which would be 180 meters.
How many meters do we have?
Well, we have about 1,700 accounts, but I'll be honest with you, I don't know how many of those are residential and how many of those are commercial.
That'll be good for you.
Yeah, that's easy enough done. I just, I do know we have approximately 1,700 accounts. And I'll explain this, the starter kit. It comes with a laptop and software that would be with Courtney. All right. This technology takes all of the human right out of it. You don't have to worry about guys going around. You don't have to worry about 3 foot of snow. You don't have to worry about remotes coming off houses when people have siding put on. The way I look at it, we can salt the village of Goshen in 3 hours, 4 hours. So you could read all the meters in the village of Goshen in 3 or 4 hours.
How long does it take now?
It takes 2 good guys 2 weeks. And that's without going back to get rereads and things like that. The technology that I got here, this meter, if you look, you'll see that it's $173 per meter. The battery, they say the batteries should last 20 years. Now, also too is you'll see a $10 charge per meter for it's called a profiling accessory. This is a really good, I really strongly suggest that we go for the extra $10 per meter. Is with this, it goes into the software, is if I come to Village Hall and say, I got a crazy bill. My bill's been $300 a month for 18 years, and all of a sudden now my bill is $1,000 or whatever it might be.
Usually they're just common collecting when they say
That you can go back and Courtney can go, let me get into your account. And they can go back as far as 2.5 years and track what your daily consumption was. So they could say on June 1st, your consumption went from approximately 210 gallons per day to 500 gallons per day. So I think right there is a big selling point, because a lot of people don't understand if they have a leaky toilet or
They never do.
They say
How much
just,
that can cost.
right,
They really do not
right. They don't, and it's really when you think about it, at 60 pounds PSI, you could lose a lot of water.
So Michael, this number of units that you have here in the 56 covers what percentage of the village?
It's 10%.
Yeah, but I think strategy-wise, I would like to go after the pits and the houses that we couldn't get in, and then after we get most of these troublesome, I'd like to do sections.
Right.
So I would just like to take a map.
That's been our plan.
Yeah, just to get sections done. Now, another thing that we
Where
got
does
is
the meter go?
excuse me.
Where does the meter go?
It goes where the water service comes into the home.
So inside the house or outside?
Yes, inside the house. Now we have a few pit meters, which are a real, wintertime. You can't get to them. This spring when it rains real hard, they're underwater. So, and these meters will go and will function in pits. Will read out. So I'd like to get rid of that headache. Now, one thing too is I need to bring to your attention too is every house, we have some of these meters in these houses are like in old Victorian houses where it has like a lead service coming in or something, where we might have to bring and it's a small percentage, but there is a few. You're going to have to bring a plumber in to help us because it gets physically, the plumbing it's 100 years old. So I'll get a price on that. I'll just get a couple of guys say, just give me a flat rate. What would it cost if you have to go in and replumb and put it's
To put the meter in.
to put the meter in, because it's kind of the homeowner, the taxpayer owns the water service from the main into the house, but we own the meter. So sometimes if you get in there, you're messing with shutoffs that don't work. It's going to take a little bit, because if the house doesn't have an outside shutoff, we might have to coordinate. We might have to kill streets. There might be 15, 20 people without water at a time. And while I'm talking about that, I'd like to bring that up because I would like to see maybe when not every house has got a working shut-off. I know we can't go around to everybody that has a broken shut-off, who doesn't have a shut-off, and tell them they gotta put it in. But I'd like to see maybe consideration is when a house is sold in the village, that would be part of the sale. It's gotta, at that point, it's gotta have an operating outside shut-off.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, for a number of reasons. I mean, it actually protects the taxpayer because if they have a problem in their house, even though it's their shut-off, I mean, they call us, we go help them. We go shut it off.
One other question. 20 years from now, and the only ones likely still here are going to be Kyle and Ed. What are we doing all the
And
bad?
Meg,
You're gonna have to.
No, Meg won't be here 20 years from now.
He's got kids.
he won't be working, he'll be alive.
She'll be alive. She's not going to be working for the village.
You're gonna have to go around and change the batteries.
So if we put them all in, every year we put in a certain percentage, we're going to be putting.
I'm thinking it's gonna,
What do you
to be
care?
honest with
What do I
you.
care? I'm not going to.
Well, no, to be honest with you, this is probably a 5 or 6 year project in
Yeah.
reality.
Which is okay.
Oh, yes.
We always figure 20%, 20%, 20%.
But,
My own concern, I have a couple of concerns.
go ahead.
Number one, well, I'll back into this manpower thing. The $70,000 that we have set for this was not set solely for this. And I want to verify where it is we were planning on using that meter work. Is it going to the CRB well? I just want to verify because it was short notice to get that information, so we'll get that information for us so we know we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Sure.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
And you know what I'm saying.
yeah. And it doesn't have to be
From there.
after the first initial year. It doesn't have to be, like I just got a quote for 820 more meters. You're talking, it's 150,000.
Exactly.
So you could break that out
Right.
any way you want to break it out.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm not
It's-
killing the
yeah,
job at all. I'm
Now,
totally.
How long will it take to, well, I mean, absent the Victorian hazard and some of the special problems, how long will it take to install a meter?
Oh, if you get guys in, if you're in a newer home that's got a good shut off inside, you could probably, one of these meters, you're in the house maybe an hour. And the joy to this is, when we put the Redomatics in now, we put the meter in, then we have to run a telephone wire outside, drill through the house and mount the remote outside. That's
You don't have
all,
to do
that's
that
all out of it now.
So they can go buzzing by and go chick, 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 chick.
They ride by with the laptop computer and nobody.
Who's going to be doing the riding by?
My plan is to put the laptop computer out to the sewer plant and have my 2 young boys, Brian and Josh, they're my computer guys. So that's actually going to free DPW guys up.
Which brings me to another question. I don't know how to deal with this, quite honestly, but I think at this point it's necessary to bring in David because he has 2 guys who are, for want of better words, out for the long haul, which leaves them too short on a regular basis. I mean, he's 2 guys short every job, every day starts. I know that we can, it's summertime, and we can hire at $12 an hour
Yeah.
to give him some relief for this. So I'm
Jumping
not
ahead.
suggesting, well, I am because I understand
That's
what's
the next
going to
thing I was
happen.
going to talk about. That's a good segue for
Well, right minds work in the right fashion.
So before we leave this, are we
Go
going
ahead.
ahead with this, or is
I-
that the proposal?
I really honestly think, yeah. Well, one thing you got to remember too is the Redomatic meters, I guess I'll call them the old-fashioned meters that we're using now. They're pretty much done the end of the year. There's going to be stock. I'm not saying you can't get them, but that's going to be the
They're
end of it.
outdated.
50 years they ran that meter. It's
No,
really done.
I think we ought to do this.
Now,
In the long run, it's going to save us money, it's going to get, I mean, how can you have people not paying for their water?
yeah, and you know, well,
And people should have answers too if they have questions about the usage.
you know what too is, if we can get in these basements, another of my thoughts on the unaccounted for water is you're getting in a lot of houses and you're making sure that there's no connections before the meter. We don't know that for sure. He's going to seminars, going to schools and all that. I talked to guys that are going and they said you'd be surprised, like the hose bit going to outside is before the meter. You'd be surprised.
How kind of tamper-proof are these things?
You'll see it, they're sealed.
So I mean, you know, I'm just saying, like, unless you know you're talking the Wizard of Oz or something, nobody's going to be able to integrate these things.
Average guy couldn't tamper with it, but to be quite honest with you, somebody with a little G2 could, sure.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is with the, well, actually, I take that back. The read-o-matics we have can be tampered with.
Right.
These, she'll know on her computer,
Okay.
because you can track.
Okay. Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. Is
So
there's
it's
some
actually-
way to find out, or a better way to find out if somebody's actually monkeying with a meter
And
or
these
something.
Actually, these are better, actually.
And they are used in other municipalities, and we've looked into other municipalities, Mike's gone down to see them.
I think the town of Goshen uses them.
Town of Goshen is using the Badger. Actually, the city of Beacon, they just went over to the same exact thing, except they use census technologies, which it's the same meter. It's basically the same meter. One thing I didn't bring up is I said it was $173.95 for a 5/8, 3/4, a 1-inch meter, like we're in the newer homes, like in Harness, they're $268. So
Okay.
there is, you know,
Well, just.
yeah. Well, I tell you the truth is, thinking about like doing a job in my head, we'll go after these real pain in the neck ones. Would get these, whatever these are, 150, 170 hard ones done. Then I tell them, I'm just going to jump up and like just get whole blocks of easy ones, like do Harness, because everything's new, everything's easy. Get them all in, then you got a whole development. You know, you got 100 houses.
And we took we had taken the village and divided it up into quadrants for many reasons.
Yep.
One of the reasons was to be able to implement this, phase this in, so it wasn't killing the budget on any one year and be able to get it done.
I was going to break it into I just broke it in. I do my snow plowing, I do my paint, and I do everything. We have 5 sections we do.
Yeah.
So.
What about,
Yeah.
what about the, I mean, do we know right now what meters are busted or what meters are in operation?
And
So she has like a total list of that.
Yep.
And we say there's 200?
Could be.
There could be
Yeah.
200. Now, some of them are just like, believe it or not, like the 1950s meters,
Right.
where they don't have a remote,
Right.
and you just can't get in the houses.
Right.
And Mary before has sent a lot of letters. I mean, it's not like
It's
the
a frustrating
offices have been
situation.
aggressive on trying to get in these places.
But knowing this all this time, you're not ameliorating the problem. We just know that we have this 200 approximately.
Right.
We know what those houses are, so now we can just go there and say, look,
Right.
You go first.
Right.
what are we gonna send?
But those would be the places that we would target though to put in
Immediately.
meters
Right.
immediately.
Yeah.
And I would go talk to like 2 local plumbers, and what we do is to do like the legwork on our end is like get me and Tommy to go around and see what the problem is at the house, because if the problem is a shut off, then maybe we'll try to, if there's like 2 or 3 on that street, if we gotta kill a street where we gotta give people notice, you know, on a certain day your water's gonna be off, and get 3 done if they have.
Well, it's going to take orchestration.
Yeah.
So who's going to install the meters?
We're gonna install the meters.
Who's buying share them except for those few that could.
Exactly, yeah. What we do right now is we actually, Kathy does, my secretary does, we do the 2nd and the 4th Wednesday of every month, our meter appointments. Whether it might be reattaching a remote, whether it might be, well, right now, most of them are meter tests because of the new, you know.
Will we be able to use this on straight time?
Oh, yeah.
Just need to know we're going to get overtime.
One of the other difficulties as well is the constant frustration and the stress that it causes between us, because I can't stand the fact that we have to guesstimate our water bills so often. My own husband goes crazy, and there's this constant push and pull because he doesn't have the men to give up to do it. They don't like doing it anyway because it's a pain in the ass trying to get into these places, but people are not home, and then we end up in the same situation, reading after reading. Either we're guesstimating it because it's the winter time, and they can't be doing water meters, but they're going to be dealing with snowstorms.
February
Yeah, the
this
same
year, I mean,
crew dealing with
yeah,
all of it.
You know.
So, which brings us back to the manpower issue.
But what I would do is, I would do instead of second and fourth, I would do every Wednesday.
Yeah.
So let me,
So you take 2 guys, 8 hours, you know.
Yeah.
Now, it's gonna get, it's, as far as overtime, it's gonna get to a point where, you know, mom and dad work, that we might be forced to do is like a Saturday appointment or something like that.
we'll try to manage.
But that's on the end, we'll just wait on the end.
Well, I mean, the implementation, you know, we'll deal with that and come up with the best plan, but I think right now, is the board in favor of moving on this pending Marcia?
Verification of money,
Right.
right.
Yes, I am.
Those folks like to just cut their cable bill, the cable off, they'll make it home. Someone get that cable check.
Get their attention.
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Well, I'd like to know if the plumber's gonna charge us too, for those difficult
Right,
houses.
right. You know, and I don't even know how many of them. You know, we were in a house the other day where, corner of Murray Avenue and North Church Street, the house that's got the black fence there, really fixed up nice house, and we were Carolyn, and she wanted a meter test, and you know, there was one right off the top of my head, we couldn't do the meter test because it was just, you know, old.
So you get that information, we'll verify this information?
Yep.
But conceptually?
Ed, Pete, you guys okay with?
And we'll get the guesstimate for doing something like this one.
Oh, the other quick question I have too, maybe you can find this out from the supplier too, is there like some sort of annual software charge? Or is it one time?
No, it's one time, it's
So
ours.
software people charge you?
Yeah, no, it's ours, and actually I asked a question too, is, actually, Warwick is just finishing up what we're starting, and believe it or not, their meters are just about paying for themselves now. But also too, is answer your question about the software is, you know, anything, you know, how technology changes, but this is supposed to be,
Right. But if they don't hit you every year.
this is supposed to be a 50-year
They
meter.
hit you for an update 10 years from now,
Right.
but.
Right.
Okay, so we're all good on this? All right, and Mike, we want to talk about the second issue.
Yeah, well, basically, Marcia laid it real good for me is, I got 2 guys that are out, right? Also too, is you let me hire a part-time guy to fill a void for those 2 guys, Mike Gould. Mike is gonna be, he just got accepted at Paul Smith University, so he's gonna be leaving us about the middle of July because he has to get some attention to some personal things. And we're about 3/4 of the way through our manhole survey with Lincoln Tully. And now we're to the point where we got all the easy stuff done. Now we're in the high traffic areas, so I got to send 2 guys with them. So it really, it's
You start every day down to 4 guys.
Yep,
Exactly.
yep. Because I really,
And the
I mean,
two
really,
guys that, you know, we talked about this, but the 2 guys have been out for a long period of time.
yeah, I mean, we're talking.
So I think this is like,
And I'm assuming that this summer that some people obviously want to take some time off.
Well, this is.
Try to take some time.
I always said to the guys, and this, like, this is our time, you know what I mean? We're slaves in the winter, summertime is our time. So yes, you know.
So what are you looking for, Mike?
2
I'd like to
guys?
get 2 guys if I could, summer kids, like, 2 months, 2.5 months, whatever it is. I had I would, probably rotate them on the garbage truck and, free up some guys to get some, work done here.
I know that from my perspective, given our budget situation right now, 2 guys might be tough, but would 1 guy be helpful?
I'm gonna take whatever you give me.
Right. But I just know,
You know what I mean? I don't know, yeah, I'm
in
asking.
the past, you've gotten 2 guys during the summer?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've gotten 2 guys when we weren't down 2 guys.
Right.
So I think this is twofold.
Yeah.
I think that we need to get, I don't know what benefit David will serve in investigating the situation, but we are getting don't want to say negative things, that people are entitled to things, they're entitled to things. I just want it investigated to make sure that we're not being ripped off, that things are being done according to oil. And number two, we've gotten 2 summer guys every year without being down. It gets very difficult to function. So if we can evaluate how much that would cost for 2 months.
It's worth the value, and I want to give everything we can. It's just
I know.
Financial challenges in the past.
Oh, yeah,
I know.
40 hours
40
each
or
a week.
12,
You're gonna be dropping the one guy off before we get these 2 guys. If we can come.
My pool's gonna be about the middle of July.
So you get
So-
the one.
So if I got one and then staggered, that would be,
I would be.
I mean, I appreciate anything you can do,
Okay.
yeah.
That sounds
Then
good.
just bring on 2 guys and then another part-time.
Bring in one guy, then bring in another guy.
We're trying to cut costs whenever possible.
Yeah.
So the guy you bring in by the middle of July, you're probably gonna get
It's,
a high school kid or a college kid who's going back to.
He's going back, so that would then,
Because of the amount, because
Oh, it's
of the
full-time.
duration.
40 hours, yeah, really, it's temporary.
Part-time meaning there's no benefit.
There's no benefits.
Right.
They are working a full week on a temporary basis.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, and again, I don't vote, so it'll be up to everyone to vote next meeting. I would be more comfortable with 1 person instead of 2, and then when that other individual does leave, maybe we can approach the topic again.
Anything you can do,
But
I appreciate
again,
it.
it's up to the board as well, so I'm 1 person.
I don't want 3, so 1 on the books and then looking for the other and knowing full well that we'll see if we can come up with that.
It would be a great help if I could get the 1 in, and then when my pool leaves, replace him, that would be,
For a month.
yeah. Because what that does, it saves your crew.
DPW Commissioner,
Still playing tic-tac-toe.
Trustee Stewart, your Commissioner of DPW, what are your thoughts?
I'd like to see us get to 2, but I would recommend that we just do it that way.
Yep,
If we can
that's
swing
fine.
it to get the 1 guy, and then Mr. Gould leaves, that we
Yep.
hire the other guy. I mean, that'll end up being probably 7 weeks, maybe 8 weeks.
Yep.
Because you're gonna get either going, generally it's been boys that have taken these jobs. But even if it were girls, I mean, obviously they're gonna be going, they're gonna be either high school students, you're not gonna get a 12-year-old, so they're gonna be high school
Or
students.
college students.
Or college
Because there are a
students.
lot of college kids who couldn't get jobs.
Yep.
Well, I would make a room, if Mike comes here, says he needs this and that, and, I mean, got no reason to doubt him, and so, that's what I would
Anything else
say.
you can do, I appreciate it, because
So,
I think we would have to do 1, unfortunately, given the
it
state.
is what it is, yeah, it is what it is.
So are we comfortable with on Mondays, a week from tonight, voting on 1 person? I'm hesitant on 2, I'm sorry. Mike.
No, I agree with you, Kyle. I agree with you
I
to
understand.
do the 1, and then we can reevaluate it in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and again, I don't even want to say there's a guarantee on the second one, because who knows, maybe one of our gentlemen on my return.
I'm good,
Who
yeah,
knows, but-
yep.
So, okay,
Good.
all right. Mike, do you have anything else?
Well, that's pretty much just, we're within 2 weeks of Great American Weekend, so it's
Speaking
time to
of
get busy.
Right.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our next document.
Mike, thank you. You're welcome to hang if you want, but, so we discussed,
Well, I'll stay for that if you want, yeah.
at our last work session, we discussed overtime for events, and it's very burdensome and costly for us. I spoke to the chief about police overtime, and I think, trying to find a mechanism to do it, it's, in my opinion, in conversations with the chief, it has to be something that doesn't leave any negotiation points, because instead of saying, well, for this, you might need 3, maybe he's concerned that if we say, all right, this should probably have 4 people, they might say, well, let's do 3. I think it needs to be, we get the plans for a project, the chief and Michael sit and they say, okay, this will require this number of man hours, this number of this, and that's not negotiable. It can't be if the chief says we need 4 people and Mike says we're going to need 3 of his guys, that's what it is, and it's not negotiable for the person. We need 7 people to do it, that's what we need.
Right.
And the event planner can't say, well, I think it'll be okay with just 2 cops instead of 3.
Certainly not.
And then whatever that amount is, we'll quantify that based on the full cost and then that's what we'll probably believe that it would cost for them. I'm open to other ideas. I don't think there's any point in doing it halfway.
As we said last week, or the week when we talked about this last time, things, once we quantify it, one, we should add a small percentage to what we quantify it to, just for mathematical errors. And two, they have to put the money up front.
And you know,
We're never going to get it from on the back end.
there are a couple issues, and obviously the Great American Weekend generates a tremendous amount of money, so it's not a question of whether they would generate the money to do it. Some of these smaller events, you know, I don't know what, obviously the Tour de Goshen is a huge event, and that generates a substantial amount of money. You see the amount of money they raise for charity. Some of these smaller foot races, I don't know how much money they raise. They're either going to have to pony up the money. They're going to also have to consider what we talked about. There are plenty of ways to schedule a race from that
Right.
year. With the Heritage Trail as a big portion of it, which eliminates a lot of the cops. And, you know, I know because I do traffic for the Great American Weekend 10K, and you know, that involves a lot of police officers. That goes all the way out around Old Chester Road. It uses the Heritage Trail to some extent, but they're just gonna. And then we have a couple of the others, like the Romano family does that one, and then there was the other one we had last year. We had two of them on the same day. We got that one.
That was a difficult
We had
one.
that one, we had
Well, one of those was
some-
on the trail, and that wasn't a burden for us.
Right, we have St. James.
The challenge is that we're finding more and more applications for these type of events.
Sure.
I would say, and I think Ed mentioned this the other week, for events that are village sponsored, like the Memorial Day Parade, and also Great American Weekend, because we're a sponsor, those, because they're Goshen events,
I have a problem with that.
with Memorial Parade.
No, Memorial Parade, no. Let me just not pick it out one by one. I think we have to have equal application of the law. And, well, if you're not going to be, and I don't want to hurt anybody, but if you're going to tell the St. Patrick's Day people that they have to step up to the plate, and God knows I think they should, since it's a countywide event. I don't know how you don't apply it to the Great American Weekend. They are charging people to rent space to make money. And the cleanup always falls on our shoulders.
You know, the problem with that event, it always troubles me. We do our $100 raffle at the Dykeman's. We've had to pay for a booth. Cataracts do their 50-50 during Great American Weekend. Those are community organizations.
And they get
here to
charged.
serve the community, they get charged. The church makes money on what they're doing, but it's on the church's property, and they charge the church. So it is a very large fundraising event. I don't know. I just don't see how you get around not charging them. I can understand the Memorial Day Parade.
For disclosure, I have to say that I am on the chamber board, so I can't vote on that specific issue. But I would say if it's a village sponsored event, or the village is a co-sponsor, I think that's different than an outside group. I don't know.
I have to say that for discussion purposes, because this is a difficult question to answer, knowing full well that even just discussing it is going to cause the ire of some people, and we have to feel free to openly discuss. I have to agree with Mel. It's just because we helped out by providing the insurance, in my mind, should not mean we also pay for police, we also pay for garbage, we also pay for all of our organizations paying to participate. I think that's something that we have to strenuously look at. I have no desire to pull any of the support that we give by providing the insurance, because it's an easy thing for us to do. It facilitates the entire wonderful weekend. But beyond that, I think it is not equitable. It's not like equal application of the law. You know how I'm a pain in the rear end about that when it comes to planning things. I feel the same way here, because if someone's going to be upset or angry or question, they should always be very clear on how the decision is come to. And though it sounds good to me on paper to say it's a village-sponsored event, but they all started not just making it on that front, they're making it on other levels
Sure.
as well. So I'd like us all to, I don't have the definitive answer.
Right, well, there might be legal questions too. We might have to
Perhaps
think
so.
about
And that's a great way to approach it, talk with them.
that. Okay.
I have to agree with Mel and Marcia. I think that, you know, you can't not have the Great American Weekend, not pay their full till, whatever, for any other organization. It has to be one or all, it has to be all or nothing. That's the only equitable way about going about doing it. And then I would say, I mean, and I'm just going from my gut knowledge or gut instinct, it's not necessarily factual, but I would say Great American Weekend probably is the biggest generator of funds of any event that happens in Goshen, and is probably even more poised to be able to ante the cost versus even a St. Patrick's Day parade or anything else like that. And I'm not saying that they need to pay as well, but I'm just saying that I would say just the event alone, just the booth rentals or whatever and everything else and all the different things, it's got to generate enough money to come, for them to come ahead of the game where they should be able to ante up for the services, no doubt about it. That's just...
Okay, so let's do this, if everyone's in favor. Any thoughts or questions that we have, either send to me or send direct to David this week. Because there's going to be little questions that I can answer. And then hopefully 2 weeks from at our next work session, we can have another discussion and bring this issue to a closure.
Sure.
If that's
It's a hard
fair
question.
for everyone. Right. Okay, does anyone have, we have an executive session offered tonight. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to talk about tonight?
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion to go into executive session? Second.
Second.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I'll see you. Yep, thank you.